It is mailbag time here on Falcons Today. I'm answering questions that came in during our live show, which airs on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern. So come tune in if you have not already. Our first question coming in via Super Chat from a longtime viewer of the channel, Marlon to Petey. Do you think we could get Robert Saleh as our next DC? Two ways of answering this. What I think and what I want. I would love Robert Saleh to be the defensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons in 2025. I think this defense would be 10 times better. I think he would be an upgrade over Jimmy Lake. Do I think Raheem Morris is going to fire his defensive coordinator after one season? That's a big admission of guilt of, hey, my first batch of hires were already a bit of a failure because I fired the defensive coordinator, who was one of the three most important coaches on the staff after 1 year. If Arthur Blank and Terry Fontenot come to him and say, hey, the defense was simply too bad this year, you have to make some change, then yeah, I could see him getting fired, and I could see Robert Saleh being towards the top of Raheem Morris's candidate list. I hope that happens. I'm not optimistic that after 1 year, we're going to see a firing of one of the two coordinators, because ultimately, this is kind of like an Adam Sandler film. When a head coach gets hired, they get to bring all their buddies with them as coaches and coordinators. And they tend not to fire their buddies this quickly. Marlon, appreciate your super chat and really good idea. So Raheem, I know you're watching. Just put this in the back of your head. Jose Santana, if Kirko loses this week, it is Penix time. I agree. I think it should be Penix time right now. Coming off a bye and throwing 4 interceptions, including one pick six, what reason do we have to believe it's going to get any better other than just hoping and crossing your fingers? Like, what can you point to? You right now, what if I was sitting in your car right now in your living room, what would you tell me about this matchup that Atlanta can exploit Minnesota for? It's not the defense. It's not, we've got great corners to slow down Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. No, it has to come from the offense. And the last 3 weeks, the offense has produced squat. So hopefully, they just keep rewatching Any Given Sunday. We get Al Pacino, Dennis Quaid, which, by the way, now that I think about it, if there was ever a movie made about Kirk Cousins, Dennis Quaid would have to play Kirk Cousins. That seems like a good casting right there. Redbot, do you think Kirk is going to the 49ers? I don't think so. They're going to stick with Brock Purdy. I know this year has not been a very successful year for San Francisco. They are below 500. He is technically on my Kirk Cousins destination possible list, but it's more of just acknowledgement that Kyle Shanahan wanted Kirk Cousins a long time ago. Ultimately, the timing really didn't work out, and it never materialized. But no, I don't think we're going to see Kirk Cousins go to the San Francisco 49ers. There's going to be some changes made in the Bay Area, but it's not moving on from Brock Purdy and acquiring Kirk Cousins. Appreciate your question, though, Red Bob. Francisco, do you think our defense will continue to improve, or is that a one-off? If I had to pick between these two, I'd say one-off. It's probably a combination of you're at home, you're off a bye, so you got some extra pep in your step, a little bit more energy. But as the bye starts to become a little bit of a distant memory, I'm looking at 13 weeks of data points, right? 13 weeks? 12 weeks, 12 games. In those 12 games, there are 2 good games of the Falcons pass rush. I don't think it's a coincidence that those two good games came before the trade deadline and after the bye week, where there is a lot of motivation to play your tail off so they don't trade for someone to take your job, and you've got some extra energy after the bye. So what data should we look at? The set of 2 or the set of 10? I think the 10 is probably a bit more accurate. So I'm going to say it was a one-off. Archangel, when should we expect DeMarcco Hellams back? When it comes to injuries like this, it's not always a question of when is he physically healthy. It's often a question of when is there going to be an open roster spot, right? Sometimes we see players kind of get stuck on IR before the year begins. And at this point, they're probably healthy enough to go out and play, but is there a roster spot open for them? Is there someone they are willing to cut to make room for DeMarcco Hellams? My guess is the answer is probably no, given what the original timeline was for the injury. Remember, he suffered it in that preseason game against the Dolphins in week 1 of the preseason. I mean, it is early December, so November, October, September, August, about 4 months ago. He could probably play if needed, but is there a roster spot open for him? That kind of remains to be seen. ATL fan, since the defense is playing better and if we get the offense back together, do we become a divisional round contender? Divisional round? Let's talk about the wild card round first. I'm not even confident this team's going to win a playoff game anymore. I can't believe the lack of confidence that has been instilled in me over the last month from this team. I mean, go back a month ago, look at the playoff picture. Atlanta's sitting at 6-3. We were talking 2 seed. Now we're talking missing the playoffs. So, sure, offense back on track, defense back on track, but right now, I'm not even confident this team is going to make the playoffs. They got to get past the wild card round before we start talking about the divisional round contender. I do appreciate your question, though, ATL fan. Yachty B, Petey, what do you think is the biggest issue within the Falcons right now? Kirk, Koo, or coaching? I think it's Kirk. I do too. I think there are one too many examples of fans, I wouldn't say lazily blame, is that even a word? Lazily blaming the coaching staff. Sometimes there are fair moments where you can't. Like calling, in which Raheem Morris admitted was dumb, 2 jet sweeps on 3rd and 1. That's a dumb coaching mistake right there. I got 2 dumb coaching mistakes, and I got 4 bad interceptions by Kirk Cousins. Right now, I think it really comes down to Kirk Cousins. Younghoe Koo did not help them at all in that loss in New Orleans. Cousins did have an opportunity, not once, but twice, with the ball at the end of the 4th quarter and threw an interception and turned it over on downs. So he might split the blame with Koo for the Saints loss, but the Broncos loss, it's on Cousins and the defense, and the Chargers loss is on Cousins. Who's the common denominator in all 3? Kirk Cousins, unfortunately. Before we look at the rest of the questions on today's episode, I do want to give a shout out to our friends over at Game Time. Let's say you want to go see a Falcons game, a Hawks game, or any other game in your local area, like a college football game. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today and create an account and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but visit Game Time right now. They offer the Game Time guarantee, which is if you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So once again, create an account, redeem code CHAT Sports for $20 off. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Caleb Johnson, do you think the defense we saw last week or Morris took over for Lake and kept it quiet? I want Reed's opinion too. So producer Reed can hop on the mic in a moment here. But do we think we saw the defense last week, or did Morris take over? I don't think Raheem Morris took over from Jimmy Lake. Those can be tough things to keep under wraps. Plus, if he did take over, I think he'd kind of want the credit from the media. So unless he's really trying to do his buddy Jimmy Lake a solid and give him the credit for a nice defensive performance, I think it would come out that he was calling plays. Reed, what are your thoughts?
I agree. I would say it's week 13. I think it's very odd for a quiet coaching change to happen. I mean, if this was week 2 or 3, maybe it's like, I don't know if it's working right now, and you switch it up.
Right.
But it's week 13. I don't think so.
Yeah. Caleb, I do appreciate your question, though, and I mean, maybe, but anytime an offensive coordinator takes over from a head coach, it is announced. So if you're trying to play this like Friday Night Lights game, I guess, but that doesn't really happen in the NFL.
Something that I do want to add is, PD likes to say this a lot, it's the players playing. It's like you can't blame coaching for Kirk throwing interceptions. Maybe they just woke up.
Yeah, I think the bye helped a lot.
I think that's the most reasonable answer.
Caleb, once again, thank you for the question. Next one coming in from, drumroll please, Austin. If Kirk doesn't play well against the Vikings, bench him. Yeah, I'm with you. I feel like the time to bench him is now. And that sounds a little knee-jerk, but I feel like what we saw against the Chargers is about to happen again. And when a pattern develops, it gets louder as that snowball gets bigger and bigger. Next one rolling in from Is Villa. Do we really think that this season would be spectacular? Or did we really think that this season would be spectacular? We need one more year to build the team and its depth chart. Can't judge the coaches till next offseason, I think. This team finished 7-10 last year and was severely limited by quarterback play. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to go, hey, 7-10, improve quarterback, and they go from 7-10 to 10-7 or 9-8, which my preseason record prediction I think was 10-7. So no, I don't think that the expectations were supposed to be sky high for this year, but I do feel like they made a lot of bold decisions by going Kirk Cousins in free agency, doubling down on a backup quarterback in the first round of the draft, and then, unfortunately for them, Braylon Trice tore his ACL, but you added a lot of interior defensive linemen, right? Rukaroro, Brandon Dorless, and then you move Zach Harrison from defensive end to interior. You bring back veterans like Kentavius Street and Eddie Goldman. You put in a lot of resources at a position that's just not a cornerstone position. And by the way, that position group has not been very good this year. So imagine spending a lot of your budget. Like if you got $100 to spend at the grocery store, and instead of spending most of it on like a nice steak or a nice salmon, you were like, no. We're going to have the best broccoli. It's like, all right, I guess that's like not a bad side dish, but that's what it is, a side dish. And then the broccoli was like, meh. That's kind of the Colin Cowherd grocery store analogy to why the depth, sure, could be better this year or could be better next year, but they made a lot of decisions this year that were their own fault. JT, offense going to get it together this week, and then defense give up 40. Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. Yeah, I still feel like Cousins snapping back or bouncing back seems like just more of wishful thinking than anything else, but I would not rule out Cousins throws 3 touchdowns, but the defense ultimately melts, and it's like neither side of the football wants to play a good game on the same day. So who you got, by the way, for this game? Falcons or Vikings? Let me know in the comment section below. I wouldn't say it's like an NFL rivalry, but it's kind of like a sneaky playoff rivalry, right? Is it not? Vikings fans definitely do not like the Falcons. So let me know, Atlanta or Minnesota.